Hey guys, how we doing? Back at you again with a classic movie review this time, and I indeed think that this is a classic film in some ways, and that, of course, is Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, starring Ewan McGregor, Natalie Portman, Hayden Christensen, Ian McDiarmid, Samuel L. Jackson, Christopher Lee, Anthony Daniels, Kenny Baker, and, of course, Frank Oz as Yoda. And this, obviously, is the third chapter in George Lucas's prequel trilogy of the Star Wars saga in the Skywalker story. And this is one of those movies where, I think I talked about Phantom Menace last year when it was re-released for its 25th anniversary, and now Revenge of the Sith is back in theaters for its 20th, and I mentioned that I am not the biggest fan of the prequels, and I still, maybe controversial opinion, but just quality-wise, I do think the sequels are better in some ways, at least one of them, but I think this definitely works a lot better as a trilogy. And I don't think just because the sequels did not work out and it was a very, sort of morally bankrupt take on Star Wars that was just after money. Look, I appreciate the prequels more in that sense, but that does not excuse all the flaws that they have at all. But yet again, it does make me appreciate them a little bit more in some way. And I just rewatched Attack of the Clones. That movie's dog shit. Alright? That's like the worst Star Wars movie. I even think it's worse than Rise of Skywalker. Yet again, I haven't seen that since it came out. And that one is a shit show to begin with itself. But I just think that that movie is just so terribly written in every single way. In ways that are almost inexcusable, even though there are some great scenes. So, leading up to Revenge of the Sith, you didn't really have too much great material to work off of, but somehow, in some way, George Lucas really put all his eggs in one basket in this one. And this is a movie, every time I see it, I grow to appreciate it that much more. And this time, especially, watching it in a packed theater for the very first time, because I didn't get into Star Wars until I was about, I want to say like 8 or 9 years old, because I was a little bitch, I guess, and I was scared of C-3PO, so that tells you everything you need to know. And so it was one of those things where I came into it at a little bit of a later stage than maybe some of my other peers that I know. And look, I mean, it's safe to say that Star Wars is what easily got me into movies. And that will never change. And I'm very appreciative of the fact that I had seen it in my childhood and found it again later. So I didn't see it when it initially came out in 2005. I wouldn't have been prepared to deal with the kind of emotionally scarring experience that could be, put onto a 6-year-old at the time, because there's some pretty gnarly stuff that happens in this movie. Very, very dark chapter in the Star Wars saga, but I think it's one of the most essential and one of the most gripping, honestly, considering everything else that was in that trilogy. Sure, it doesn't have anything on the original 3 films. Absolutely not. But I think the more I come around to this movie, the more I realize just how tightly structured and so elaborate the plotting is in this film. It doesn't really feel plotting or unnecessary in the way that the first 2 movies do, or convoluted for that matter. This is very, very elaborate in every single way, and I think all the politics here are really, really interesting. The distrust between the Jedi Council and, of course, the Chancellor, and how that keeps growing, and how Anakin's kind of like this pawn that's like being used between the two of the parties to kind of see what is going on, and how he's manipulated by both of them, especially Chancellor Palpatine, who's played by Ian McDiarmid in this, of course. But this really, to me, is one of the reasons why the prequels work so well, because even in Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, as small of a role as Ian McDiarmid has as Palpatine in those films, I think he is easily the most consistent actor in the entirety of this trilogy, and I honestly think that this performance was deserving of an Oscar nomination. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, just the little choices that Ian McDiarmid chooses to make, like, especially in the scene where he's fighting Dooku, and you get that little cut of him, like, kind of like egging him on, like he's getting excited about the fight. That's something that just any actor wouldn't do. Like, that really is a sign of a great actor, and how playful he is too in his performance. It's kind of campy in a lot of ways, but not in a way that feels out of place or over the top. It feels like it perfectly fits that character so well, and the way that he is so knowingly manipulating Anakin and everything around him. It is just such a carefully constructed character and performance. And my goodness, the monologue where he talks about Darth Plagueis the Wise and how he's enticing Anakin to turn to the dark side. It is like one of the best scenes in any of the Star Wars movies. And I think his acting really elevates it to a whole other level. Like just that head turn when he goes, "Not from a Jedi." Like, it is just absolutely phenomenal, his performance in this. And of course, you know, this is Revenge of the Sith. We're getting into spoilers. I mean, come on, you know the story. I mean, it's the story of how Anakin Skywalker turned into Darth Vader. And I think the most essential ingredient to making this whole story work is Ian McDiarmid's performance in this. And of course, Ewan McGregor is always great in all these movies as well. And I really love what he does with Obi-Wan in this one, because I think something that's truly missing from the first two films is a sense of like real banter and affection between Obi-Wan and Anakin, and really a clever sense of humor, because my buddy, we were talking about this in the theater, this is an extremely quotable movie. And not for all the ways that, you know, The Phantom Menace or Attack of the Clones are quotable, where it's all just absolutely terrible dialogue. And trust me, there's some of that in this. I'm not excusing it in that regard, but there's so many clever, iconic lines that people still quote today, especially with Kenobi. You know, like when he shoots the blaster and kills Grievous and looks at it, it's so uncivilized. I mean, it's just absolutely phenomenal. And I think Ewan's work, not only does he carry on, you know, the legacy of Alec Guinness in the way he portrayed this character, but I think as the movies go along, you see that evolution into the man that he would later become in the original film. And I just think what really strikes me about this movie is the banter between him and Anakin. It's a lot more playful, it's a lot more lighthearted, and you definitely feel with the scenes between him and Hayden Christensen, there's actually a real affection between the two of them, which I think is sorely lacking in the other movies, where I think Anakin is more of a nuisance than anything, and just seems like he's like constantly getting on his nerves. But you can tell that they have a genuine respect and shorthand with one another, and I really, really love to see that the writing of this movie is so significantly better. And while there's so much of this movie I absolutely love, let's not beat around the bush here. I mean, this is not an amazing movie. I think a lot of that has to do with some of the dialogue and a couple of the performances in particular, because George Lucas does not know how to write love scenes to save his life, especially between Anakin and Padme here. And look, I hate to say it, I mean, Hayden Christensen is a lot better in this one. I think he has some of his best scenes in the entire trilogy, but he's still not great in it. And I think Natalie Portman, neither. It's like, it's crazy for me to think that she's like the one Oscar-winning actor in this cast, because you watch this movie and you don't get it. And I don't really blame her for that, because everything else she's in, she is great. She's one of the best that we have working today, but I just don't think she really works in this trilogy. And I mean, especially the scenes between them and the roofer is like, "You are so beautiful," and she's like, "Only because I'm so in love." He's like, "No, because I'm so in love with you." It's like, who the hell says that? So it's like, there's a lot of like cringe-inducing and eye-rolling moments in this movie that really, honestly, hold me back from fully embracing and loving it. And also, I do think that there are some pacing issues. As great as the Mustafar stuff is, it does go on a little too long. But regardless, I mean, there's so much stuff about this. Even the fight between Yoda and Emperor Palpatine, it really does feel like that should have been the moment where they waited to reveal Yoda with the lightsaber for the first time. Because I think the scene with Attack of the Clones is absolute bullshit. Him and Count Dooku, and just how it basically negates the whole idea of Yoda and you know, the fact that the Force is supposed to be this all-encompassing power that isn't necessarily about, you know, your skills with a laser sword. But I think it would really be such a great reveal had that been the first time you see Yoda pull out the lightsaber and give it his all against Emperor Palpatine, because really, I think there's still a lot at play when it comes to the Force. You know, when he's spinning that, you know, the Senate seat around and like throwing it at him, there's still a lot of great moments that don't undermine the character of Yoda in the way that Attack of the Clones does. And I just think there's so many moments and more, like Order 66 scene is absolutely heartbreaking and devastating, especially the stuff on Mustafar at the end between Obi-Wan and Anakin. I mean, so iconic, so many great lines. It's like, I have the high ground, you know, like all of that. But man, that scene where he's burning in the lava and yelling, I hate you, and he's like, you are my brother, Anakin. I loved you. I mean, it's just, it's so heartbreaking. And I really do feel this time, more than ever, that sense of heartbreak and tragedy that George Lucas was going for in this movie. And there's so many little moments in his direction that I think feel so inspired. Like, especially the scene where Anakin's on one side of Coruscant and Padme's on the other, and they're looking out the window, and you feel like this inherent connection, like he's telling her, everything is going to be okay, like, I'm okay. It's so beautifully conveyed without words, bogging down what could have caused more issues for this film that plagued the first two. And I really also love, like, the sense of cross-cutting in this. I really do think that this was maybe even worthy, borderline worthy, of an Oscar nomination for Best Editing. The cross-cutting here, the way that they cut between Vader and Padme at the end, you know, the death of Anakin Skywalker, the death of Padme Amidala, and the birth of Luke and Leia. It's so beautifully conveyed. I mean, this is like Francis Ford Coppola level stuff. Of course, he was pulling out of the Francis Ford Coppola playbook there, but not in a way that feels uninspired or lackluster for that matter. And some other things I really, really love about this movie too, from a technical standpoint. I mean, the makeup is incredible, especially with Palpatine and some of the other, aliens that they interact with throughout the whole story. It's really, really some of the most impressive work in the entire franchise, if I'm being honest. But how is that the only Oscar nomination this movie got? I mean, this should have gotten sound, it should have gotten visual effects, it maybe should have gotten editing, it should have gotten supporting actor. Like, there's so many categories I think that this movie was kind of passed over for, and I really don't get it. And of course, the score by John Williams, absolutely iconic, one of his best. And that's the thing that I've never understood about, how much hate the prequels got, was the fact that John Williams can get nominated for all three sequel films and not at least Phantom Menace and Revenge of the Sith. I mean, that's bullshit, man. Like, those scores, I'd say, besides The Force Awakens, are much more memorable and iconic. And yeah, so I really don't understand what was going on there. But I do think that from a craft standpoint, this movie is honestly pretty exceptional. And I just think that there's so much about this film that really, it is a very well-directed movie in a lot of ways when you think about it, despite some acting choices here and there, and some really, really convenient stuff like C-3PO getting his mind erased. Oh, how convenient, you know? Like, that always has bothered me, and I don't think anything will ever alleviate that fully. But I do think the story here is just so well structured. And the fact that it's like this trilogy had a clear end. Like, George Lucas wanted to go somewhere with it. And you can tell by the way he presents the story. I mean, this was the chapter he wanted to tell. Honestly, we could have cut out the other two movies, if I'm being entirely honest. Because it is amazing to me that he was able to really bring this together in a way that the other two didn't. And I also love to see how people have come to embrace this movie. I mean, everybody was laughing at all the stupid shit in the movie, and everyone was also, like, applauding at the end. I mean, I didn't, because it's not a masterpiece, right? But at the same time, it's really great to see people are appreciating this movie in a new light that I don't think it had before. And even when Hayden Christensen came on the screen to speak beforehand, yeah, he might not be like great in these movies, but you can tell the fans have some sort of affection for him, especially considering all he went through career-wise. I mean, he was never able to live up to a fully fruitious career that maybe he could have had if he wasn't directed by George Lucas, but you can definitely see that fans are embracing him, and he's embracing the fact that he was Anakin Skywalker, and obviously still is. So I really, really, really do think that this is such a rousing chapter in the Star Wars saga, and I think definitely one of the better films out of everything that has come out. I'd probably put it right under Rogue One for me, which, I don't know what's that saying. I mean, I have a Star Wars ranking. You might not know my exact thoughts on it, but I really think that this movie is kind of great in a lot of ways. Like I said, I don't quite love it, but there's so much here to appreciate and then some. So I'm going to give Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, an 8 out of 10. Very, very good Star Wars movie, and I think that if you haven't seen it in a long time, please go check it out again. Please go check it out in theaters. I mean, this really is an event to, be celebrating. I'm sure it's not the best anniversary that we've had from 2005, but I think it's definitely the one that's been the most successful. It's been making a lot of money. And I'm really excited to see how well this does and how people, come back around to this movie that, was, I think, an integral part of a lot of our childhoods. This was always one of my favorite Star Wars movies, and even though I can't quite go that far today, I definitely think, like I said, it's definitely one that I appreciate a lot more and that I really, really enjoy and have a lot of fun with every time I watch it. So you guys let me know what you think about Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, down in the comments below. Is it one of your favorite Star Wars movies, and why? Please let me know all that and more. And please smash the like button if you like what I'm doing here, if you want me to talk about more movies like this, more classic movies, more movies that are coming out on the horizon. Very, very excited to continue this journey on with you guys, and I always want to thank you for being a part of this channel and this community. I really, really appreciate it, and yeah, I'll talk to you guys soon, and may the Force be with you.